Hi, my name is Jake Bilodeau, and I'm going to tell you about a tragic thing that happened to me and happened, unfortunately, to a lot of other people. When I was 21 years old, I was the owner of a Subway in Providence, Rhode Island, not too far removed from many of you. I had just graduated from Johnson & Wales in Providence and earned my bachelor's degree in hotel restaurant management as well as hospitality sales, and then I bought a Subway. About a year into that, I felt like I was on top of the world. Nobody could tell me anything, and I never made any mistakes. So part of that thinking process, I sold Subway, and I was just going to travel the world. I went to Amsterdam, I did all types of stuff, a Euro trip, and traveled America, and really considered myself untouchable. Unfortunately, soon after that, I found out that I wasn't. I was then recruited by Papagenos, and I accepted the position to manage the Papagenos in Smithfield, Rhode Island. About a month into that, I was closing the restaurant. It was a Monday night. It was July 19th, 2004, a day that me and many people will never forget. On my way home from work that night, as I was getting on the highway, I noticed that there was a Jeep in front of me going kind of slow. So for some reason, because I thought that the world revolved around me at that point, I thought that they were messing with me. They weren't. They were just kids driving on the highway. So as I got onto the highway, I noticed they were still in front of me, so I pulled up next to them to see if I knew who they were. I didn't, and I drove off. About maybe a quarter mile down the highway, I look up in my rear view and I notice that the Jeep is still behind me. It's about 10 o'clock at night. There's 4 kids in the Jeep, and I'm looking in my rear view and I'm like, they must be, riding my tail on purpose, because of course the world revolved around me. What I didn't think about, and what most people don't think about, is all the different variables on the road. You never know who's driving, you never know who's in what car, where they're coming from, what kind of day they're having, what they've been doing all day, what's happened to them in their life, and so on and so forth. And the big variable that I didn't know was that the driver was 17 years old and he had just gotten his license, and he wasn't really used to handling a Jeep or an SUV of any sort, and he was really inexperienced. And that doesn't make him a bad person or a bad driver, but the next thing I did was what a lot of people do on the highways quite often. I hit my brakes. I brake checked them, is what they like to call it, and when I did that, I just meant to scare him, to tell him to get off my tail, but unfortunately I really did scare him, and he slammed on his brakes and cut his wheel to the left, and then when the 2 wheels came off the ground, he overcompensated and he rotated his wheel back to the right, which then flipped his Jeep off the road. He was 17. He died on the scene. His head was crushed by the vehicle. There was 3 other boys in the car. All the other 3 were wearing seatbelts, and they did not sustain any injuries. Seatbelts are a crazy thing that I've been talking about for years now, because what ended up happening eventually was I went to prison. I was arrested for leaving the scene of an accident, death resulting, and driving to endanger, death resulting. Although our cars never collided, it was still my fault that that accident happened, and I will forever have to live with those decisions. I called 911 immediately after the accident, but I was scared, and I acted like a 21-year-old coward who days before thought he was untouchable, now realized that I was scared to death, and I drove home because I didn't want to see what I had caused. And although I called 911, that doesn't make it okay to not stop, and that actually was the charge that carried the most time. I went to trial. My lawyer